is incredible. It's how it feels at the top. Got no incentive to stop. Payment is only the rock. So I take water and soda, then hit them with lyrics and mix them up all in the pot. While in the jungle, they won't be tame. Keep them alive but without a brain. They want me broke with a lot of fame. Smiling but he in a lot of pain. Till he tap out like a lot of names. You gotta give me what's owed. Taking control. No, this is not a game. No.
It's time for another edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, joined by the head coach, Mike Brey. Coach, a 1-1 week. You had a tough one down there at Wake Forest. Really talented team you took on, and you lost to them close late, but you bounced back nicely with the win against Syracuse at home on Wednesday night. What was your takeaway from the week?
Well, that's our personality. You know, we lost to a very good Wake Forest team in a really heck of a basketball atmosphere. We had our chances, couldn't finish, but this group has shown after a loss, they bounce right back, and an offensive struggle, not much defense against Syracuse, but we earned the win, our 13th league win and our 20th win of the season. I'm very proud of our group.
You mentioned the ability to bounce back. You mentioned that after a loss, every game since Boston College that you've lost, you guys have not just won, you've won at least 4 in a row. What does that tell you about this group, that they've been able to move past these losses and then start big streaks?
I really put that on our leadership. You know, we talked about streaks after losses. And, you know, when you talk about it as leader, as the coach, you know, there's some wishful thinking there. Will they really buy into that? And I think Apprentice Hub, and Nate Leshevsky, and Dane Goodwin, and Cormac Ryan, our captains, have really sold that message. We're going to bounce back, and we're not going to just bounce back with one.
Coach, appreciate it. When we come back, we'll break down both the Wake Forest and Syracuse games on this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. Welcome back to Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's game breakdown as we look at the Wake Forest game. Coach, going into this one, there were 5 games left in the regular season. You're right there with Duke, trying to hold serve. You guys were really vocal, too, about let's lean into this thing, let's try to win this ACC regular season title, and you wanted to put some pressure on them with this game starting before Duke. So what was the mindset and message going into Winston-Salem?
No question. I think our guys have really grasped this chase of the regular season title, and I said we get to play first. And we can put pressure on them, and we get off to a great start, Tony. I mean, we're really ready to play. Great basketball atmosphere on Tobacco Road against the most improved team in the league that's really playing well, and all of a sudden is really old by way of the transfer portal, but really good offensively. We're scoring. We really had a hard time guarding them, not only in the first half, but pretty much the whole game.
Yeah, they got some great scores. Of course, Alondas Williams leading the conference in scoring. I do want to ask about that start. As you mentioned, after the first media timeout, they were up briefly 12-6, and then you guys really figured it out. You hit them with a big run, 18-4 run, and at one point, 5 different guys made a three-pointer. To me, that's when you guys are at your best, when you never know where the shot's going to come from. What did you see in that run?
Well, we were really sharing the ball. There's no question about it. I think Blake Wesley, again on the road, kind of jump-started a little from us from the three-point line, and then everybody got involved. You know, we got out in transition. We made the extra pass. It's a fun team to watch play when they're making the extra pass.
Let's talk about Blake. He had 15 points in the first half, 4 threes. To me, it looked a lot like Clemson just the week before. On the road, he seems to be just an even more dynamic player. He also had 3 steals in the first half. What have you seen from Blake, especially in these big, hostile road environments?
Well, remember about 3 weeks ago, everybody had him hitting the wall. And you know, the kid physically is a beautiful athlete, and he's got great older teammates that have helped him. Blake Wesley has just become a better all-round guard. His decision-making with shot selection, his decision-making when to drive, when to pass, when to finish. Very exciting for me to see him just digest being an all-round guard and being under control and making more efficient decisions offensively.
Nate Leshevsky hit a big 3 with about 4 minutes left that gave you the lead. I just want to talk about Nate because he went down with that lower leg injury about 2.5 weeks ago at NC State. It took him a while to adjust to the knee brace, but man, since he's kind of gotten his legs under him, he's really found his rhythm and he's knocking down a lot of big shots for you too.
A lot of respect for him playing, you know, not completely healthy. How about the charge? He got hurt taking a charge 2 weeks ago. The second charge he took against Wake Forest the guy just ran over him, and he's right there and gives himself up. But you're right. I mean, he has the knack of making big threes for us. That has really been kind of the MO on him now for a couple years.
I want to talk about late game here because, again, your team, I thought, they do a great job keeping games close. Even the games that you've lost, I feel like they always give you a chance. Cormac Ryan hit a couple big free throws to make it 72-70. Then you guys defend really well, but Mucius knocks in that big three. But you respond right away, and I want to talk about that possession. Down 5, you did not hesitate. Blake Wesley came down and got Cormac a great look from the corner that got you guys back within 2 with a minute left. What'd you like about your team's execution late?
Well, it was the one time we tried to double the post a little bit, and they kicked it out, put it in rotation, and they hit a 3, because they were killing us inside. We tried something different. They took advantage of it, and that's really kind of the fearlessness and swagger this group has. We come right back down. Blake finds him, and Cormac rises up and drills it to kind of answer back. And it's really the MO of this group, man. I think they just love close games in road atmospheres. They're addicted to it.
When you talk to a team after a game like that, they wanted to stay tight with Duke, and it doesn't go their way, but you're happy with the execution. What do you tell them?
Really kind of bounce back mode. And before I get into the locker room now, our captains and especially Hub set a tone like, fellas, we emptied the tank. We gave ourselves every opportunity. Let's go back and get some rest tomorrow. And I told him, I said, when we've lost a game, we've had a 6-game, a 5-game, and a 4-game win streak. Let's start another one on Wednesday.
Coach, appreciate it. When we come back, we'll talk about how the Irish bounce back against Syracuse on this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. Welcome back to Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time to continue this week's game breakdown as we look at the Syracuse game. Coach, you talked about it at the end of last segment. We've talked about it throughout the show. Your team's ability to bounce back this year has just been outstanding, but you can't take it for granted, right? Just because you lost doesn't mean you're going to bounce back. You have to do the work. What'd you guys focus on to get ready for Syracuse, which is always a unique matchup?
Well, can you really chase them off the three-point line? Can they not make double-digit threes? I know they were going to score. They're a gifted offensive team, but can you limit the three-point shots? And the games with Syracuse lately have been beautiful to watch because the ball's going in the basket on both ends, and neither team can really guard the other. We did a little better job guarding the three-point line than they did, and we escaped.
Let's talk about Paul in the first half. A double-double in the first 20 minutes. He went for 14 points, 11 rebounds. I know you thought he was going to have a good game, but did you think it was going to be that dominant in the first half?
I didn't know he could do that. I thought we could really take advantage of him. We were able to throw it to him and post him up more than I thought against their zone. I told him to be mentally ready to just get to the offensive board, which he did. But I thought our guys really looked to move the zone enough and feed him just like we feed him versus man-to-man. It almost became man-to-man when we fed him, and then we played basketball. And him one-on-one, I like him against anybody.
So you come out of the locker room, you make a quick 3 from Dane Goodwin. It looks like, okay, you're going to extend this thing. You had it to 7. They hit you with a quick 9-0 run to take a 2-point lead. I thought your team responded so well out of that timeout. It's a 13-0 run. All the points scored by Leszewski and Cormac Ryan, who matched the season high with 16 points. What impressed you about that?
It's almost part of the fabric of this group now, coming out of a timeout in the second half and getting on a run. And I'm really pleased with how Cormac is playing. He's been that defensive stalwart for us all year. But now his offensive game has calmed down. He's seeing things. The game has slowed down for him. He's shooting the ball for us and just being an amazing all-around guard.
It feels like every week we sit down in these chairs and I say, okay, final media timeout or something you had to call late in the game. It's a one-possession game. What was the discussion like? And then we'll talk about the Prentice 3.
Yeah, I called timeout because I thought Prentice and our group, but especially Prentice, was exhausted. I looked down, he's bent over. Now, he was picking up and zigzagging a ball handler. I really couldn't afford to take him out of the game because he was tired. And so I said, this is more of let's just get a rest, because certainly that's not what I drew up in the timeout, and not that you draw things up against the zone. We had a little ball screen entry set. They did a good job guarding it. Now all of a sudden we got shot clock pressure on us. But when the man launches an incredibly difficult shot, it's in the air forever. And I'm thinking to myself, Hub's a winner, and this is his year. I think that one may go. And darn if it didn't. The guy when it's on the line, he's always delivered, even with hard shots.
The win gets you to 13-4 in the conference. You hold serve with Duke. They beat Virginia, so you're still one back with 3 to play. But I want to ask you more importantly about 20 wins. There was a great clip of you in the locker room talking about 20 wins. When you get to 20, no matter how you get there, that's a big deal. What did it mean to you and this team to get to 20 wins on the season?
I think 20 wins is still a great endorsement of a group if you can get to 20. I know we play more games now than we did 20 years ago or 25 years ago, but you get to 2-0, you've done something. You're a heck of a team to do something. And to get to 13 league wins, with a couple more to go is very powerful. So I want them to take some breaks along the way and go, man, we've been chasing this. We hit a mark. Now let's get back to chasing the regular season title in practice.
One more thing to ask you about. You guys are now 12-1 at home. The only loss came to Duke. Otherwise, you guys have been just fabulous on your home court. You've got a couple more, but how important is it to this team to finish this season 14-1 at home?
No, it's been, we're a confident group in this building, and I really give a lot of credit to our fans. We've had good energy in the building. Our Legion, our student section, has been just off the charts and has really made us believe, especially in the second half when we're playing defense in front of them and they're loud. So I think, and I'm happy for our fans. I think they've really enjoyed this team that has grown together, that had to go through tough stretches, not only this year, but through their career. And has really blossomed into a group that plays the right way.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll step aside and come back with more on this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. Welcome back to Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's edition of Irish Intel, where we go inside the play. Coach, this is against Syracuse. You always have to move the ball quickly against the zone. This, I thought, was one of the most impressive trips by your team offensively. Just talk me through everything that happens on this trip.
They know who they're playing with, and it's just, for Prentice's movement there, foul line, step out, Blake slides over, we've got spacing here, and you just feel good about it. You're rewarded when you move the ball like that.
All right, Coach, more great ball movement. This is the final basket of the first half against Syracuse. A little bit different the way the ball moves around, but again, it doesn't stick and your team gets a great 3.
When I go to a coaching clinic this spring, this is the clip versus zone. Here's how you attack a zone. But what poise again, the ball not sticking. It starts with Hub, moving guys around and kind of being the quarterback there. We get a foul line touch, which is always good. Paul doesn't force it. And how about Cormac's poise here? Get to the lane, 2 feet, kick it out. Again, you're rewarded. Those shots always go in when you move it the right way, but this is a heck of a play. Paul's such a great passer. He gets caught down here in a double team, but is able to see it and make a heck of a pass out. Prentice with another one, touch pass. Here comes Cormac, shot fake, close out, keep the dribble alive, get to the paint, still get off 2 feet. That's where he's gotten calmer, and deliver it to Nate in the side gap. Just beautiful basketball. I mean, again, as a coach, when your team shares it like that, it's one of my best feelings. It moves me, Tony. It moves me.
Okay, Coach, this is second half. This is an example of your defense leading to offense. Sometimes the best way to beat a zone is just to beat it down the floor, but talk me through the defensive side of this possession first.
Well, I thought our defense really picked up here, Tony. Watch Nate Leshevsky and Blake switch this. All right, Boeheim goes under and then uses the screen again. We're very aware of him. And so we just switch it, and Blake ends up on a big. They try to take advantage, but you forget Blake Wesley's got a wingspan of about 7 feet, makes a play, and I love this early. What a great pass by Prentice. And Nate Sensen, that's kind of a dagger one right there. Just great here, awareness of Boeheim. And on the lob, Cormac's making a play on the ball too, but Blake to make that play. It started with the switch. They force a pass. And Blake, when he's active back there and rebounding in the paint, which we've stayed after him about, it helps our defense. This is another assist by Prentice and coming down the floor and getting something great and feeling it.
Thanks, Coach. When we come back, we'll have this week's edition of Irishography on Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. So, Trey, the team's playing really well right now. You guys are second in the conference. What's been working for the team right now?
I think it's just a mixture of our defensive stuff and the offensive stuff from practice that we carry over. And the guys are figured out through the year how to play with each other and start to learn how to play off each other. And that chemistry, as well as what we practice every day, our principles, our habits of meshed together and allowed us to play this well.
Something that's really impressed me this year is I think in your last 5 games you've lost, you'd follow them all up with wins and actually 4-game winning streaks if you go back to Boston College. So how has this team been able to respond to losses as well as you have the last couple of months?
Yeah, I think we're an older group, so I think a lot of us have taken some lumps in our college careers, and we know how to bounce back and deal with it, and just kind of helping to bring Blake along as well because he's a freshman. But I think we're just mature and know how to bounce back, and we know when we take a loss, like I think most of the time we've given it our all and we played a good game, we just lost that night. So we know just kind of come back, lock into practice, and just try to move forward next game.
I want to ask you about your role. I talked to Coach Brey about you a lot because you're a 1,000-point scorer, you're a very capable scorer, but you're coming off the bench. Sometimes you get more minutes than other games, and other times you're asked to really play a big role offensively. How do you stay mentally ready knowing that every night your role might be a little bit different?
Yeah, I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't hard, but I think it's just trying to just come in every day. I get my work in with Coach Tone and just try to stay mentally and physically ready, and whatever he calls for me to do that night, I'll try to do my best.
I want to go back about 2.5 months to the Kentucky game, a game where you played a really big role. Of course, maybe the most notable win of this season, one of the best crowds you guys have had in Purcell. What do you remember when you think about the game against Kentucky?
We had just lost to Boston College, and everybody, I think, was like, we were, I think, 3 and 4 at the time. Everybody's probably like, here we go again. And that week was an interesting week. We had some rough practices. We had a team-only talk where we kind of sat down and just got real with each other. And then we came out Saturday. We had the crowd. We were able to play off that. And it was just a really fun day. I mean, anytime you get to beat Kentucky and have fans storm the court, I mean, it was just a really, really fun day.
You guys are in second place, as I mentioned earlier. 3 games left, you're only 1 back of Duke. What's going to be the biggest key for the team here in the last week of the season?
Just to control what we control and take care of our business. We can't really control what Duke is going to do. I think finishing top 2 or top 3 in the conference will be very important, especially get to the double bye in the ACC tournament. So just kind of focusing on what we can do, and let's see what Duke does.
When we come back, we'll look ahead at Notre Dame's upcoming games on this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time to wrap up this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. Coach, you've got 3 regular season games left, 2 coming up this week. The first one is Georgia Tech at home, a team you've already beaten this year, but let's be frank, that game came down to the wire in overtime in Atlanta. What's going to be the key against the Yellow Jackets?
Well, I think we'll see a lot of zone again. They match up. It's maybe good that we just had to play 40 minutes against Syracuse's zone because Tech does that. Big and athletic. Can we keep them off the backboard? Not the shooting team, but more the driving team with athletic wings and then going getting their misses. But it doesn't matter the record of the team coming in here. Like ACC games, they're going to be hard for us, but we kind of like hard games.
In that vein, the following game is at Florida State, a team that's really struggled lately, but man, they were 6-2 earlier this year. Towards the top of the conference, of course, Leonard Hamilton's always going to have them ready. Got to go on the road. Never easy to win on the road. What's the key in that one?
Well, we've never won in that building. We have been close. We've played pretty well down there. Prentice and I were talking about it a week ago. We've never won in that facility. They guard the heck out of us physically. Can we rebound the ball there? They have size and athletic ability, but I want us to be loose on the road and go for it.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. That does it for this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com.